Today, I would like to clear up some misunderstandings about self inquiry. You'd be surprised in these spiritual teachings, even the entire non dual space, there is a great misunderstanding, or I should say, a lack of understanding of self inquiry. Today, let's take some time to really understand what self inquiry is, because if you lack the understanding of what self inquiry truly is, it can be very confusing and it can get you nowhere. But if you start to really realize the power of self inquiry, you start to see it for what it truly is. It is the most powerful meditation. Usually, when people practice self inquiry, they ask themselves, who am I? And then they themselves start to create explanations of what I am or what I am not. They keep mentally repeating, I am not the body, I am not the mind, or I am the aware self, I am Brahman, I am the infinite truth. You see how like this just is more thinking. It gets us nowhere. So self-inquiry is not a process of reasoning. It is not a investigation, a mental investigation that you do with words into your past, into your body, into the self. So, what is self inquiry? Self inquiry, again, is a meditation. It may and usually does in the beginning, when we just encounter the practice, start off by posing the question, who am I? However, as the practice matures, even this questioning can be dropped. And we'll talk about that in a second. But initially, we are asked to inquire, who am I? What happens when you pose the question, who am I? The question, who am I, brings your attention inward because it is a self inquiry, right? You are inquiring into what I am. So naturally, it's supposed to take your attention away from the world. It's supposed to take your attention away from the mind to you. So it takes our attention away from the world of sense, what we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. It takes our attention away from the body. It takes our attention away from the mind, which is thought and emotion, to I, because we start to see that all these things that I just mentioned, the world of sense, the body, the mind, thought, and emotion, they all change. I see them all change, but I am the same self always. That is what we are trying to see. What is that self? What is the nature of that self? But we are not trying to think about it. We are bringing our attention there. You see the difference? So the question, who am I, when posed, it guides your attention inward. Usually our attention is just spilling over into thoughts, feelings, ideas about the body, ideas about the world. We are just so captivated. Our attention is so imprisoned in the world, in experiences which change. And we just keep giving them reality. We keep taking these experiences to be what I am. We keep taking the changeful body and mind to be what I am. Now, this question, who am I, brings our attention inward to ourself, the unchanging, impersonal, aware presence. So, guiding our attention inward, when we ask the question, who am I? It's not like we are waiting on any intellectual answer. We are not waiting for another word to answer, who am I? No word really applies because any word that will arise is also something I am aware of. So I'm not interested in the word that arises in the mind. I am aware, I'm interested in myself. So I guide my attention inward again. Who am I? It brings our attention inward to the self that knows, to the self that knows all experiences, including the mind. And so when we guide our attention inward to the self that knows, it is that self, which I am, knowing myself. Self becomes aware of itself. I become aware that I am. I become aware that I am aware. Instead of thinking about this right now, try to feel into it. This is why self inquiry is called the direct path or the direct practice. Or you may often hear it as the highest meditation because it directly places you in the position of your true self. It helps you immediately recognize your true nature as that which is aware, not as some sort of intellectual realization of something. The question, who am I, points you back to being as you are. This is why it's the highest meditation. So, what are you to do? How are you to practice? You pose the question, who am I? And there are many variations of this question that we discuss on this channel. But for today, let's just talk about the question, who am I? That question brings your attention inward to the I, which is aware, to the self, which knows experience. So recognize here and now, I become aware of myself being aware. I am to stay here, just being aware of being aware. I am to stay here, being aware that I, self, am. Again and again, thoughts will arise and try to take your knowing outwards, your attention outwards. So whenever thoughts arise, trying to speak about what you're doing, trying to speak about whether it's working or not, trying to speak about who the self is, what the self is, recognize that even the arising of thoughts you are aware of. Become interested once again in yourself, that which is aware of thoughts. You can, if you want, pose the question, who am I again? Or what is aware of thought? You can pose that question and once again bring your attention to the knower of thought. Enough letting your attention spill over into thoughts. Instead, bring your attention inward back to yourself, the knower of thought. And once again, stay here. Know that you know. Know your knowing. Know the knowing. Be the knowing. Be aware that you are aware. Again and again, as you return inward like this, you are in meditation. This is what it means to be in meditation, to be consciously aware, to be present, to be that which is aware. Be as you are. Why be as you are? Because usually we are being the mind, we are being the body, we are being the world. But these aren't our true identity. Self-inquiry points you back to being as you truly are, points you back to being your true self. And the great sages say that if we wish to know our true self, we are to be our true self. We are to be as we are. Ramana Maharshi always teaches, and actually there's a great book on his teachings titled Be As You Are, because that is the practice of self-inquiry. It is not an intellectual process. It has nothing to do with thought. Other than the question, who am I, or what is aware of experience, thoughts cannot help us in this investigation. The very arising of the question, who am I, leads to the dropping away of all thought, including the question, who am I? And you are just to be as you are, aware, being aware of being. It is a subtle practice because it is a direct practice. Okay, so don't be afraid of that. Here on this channel, we discuss this practice in so many different ways, but the essence of it is the same, being as you are. So there are so many resources on this channel that will help you with this practice. If it has come into your experience, trust that. Don't be intimidated by it if this is new to you. And don't carry learned knowledge into this practice if you are seasoned in these teachings. Be fresh, be new each time you practice this. Let go of all ideas of yourself, of who you are, of what even self inquiry is. Every time you pose the question, who am I? Or what is aware? Simply turn inward to the wordless, thoughtless self. And as your practice matures, you don't even need to pose the question at the level of words, who am I? Who am I? It just becomes a wordless, thoughtless curiosity. And you are able to simply be aware of being. It starts to become easier and easier to just take a step back, renounce identification with all form, renounce identification with mind, and just recognize your true place, your true nature. If this is very hard for you and you want to ask questions and need support, check out our free community. I will link it down below. Over there, you can also access my self inquiry mini course that will take you in this practice deeper. I hope this video clarified some things about self inquiry. See you next time.